Forgiving yourself and others will change your entire life. I have been working with this. Forgiving myself for thinking I need to be some other place, forgiving myself for receiving judgment from other people, forgiving myself for judging. There's a big difference between judging and discerning, right? Discerning is looking at where maybe you played a part in something, or where it's just somebody's character traits or personality traits. Judgment is going, I had this experience with this type of person before, and now I'm going to put a blanket statement on either a whole group of people or this individual that I just met, regardless of the experience I have with them. That's pure judgment. That's hate. So you're going to get a lot of that if you're up to anything. If you're up to doing anything that requires some level of risk, you're going to get judgment. So basically, if you're in the world, interacting with anybody, if you're not interacting with anyone, then the only possibility is to have judgment from yourself, which is very possible. So basically, if you're in the world, if you're living and breathing, you're going to experience some sort of judgment where you have an opportunity to forgive. And when we forgive ourselves and others, we can change our entire life for the better. Because then you realize that everyone is meeting you and you are meeting everybody at their own level of consciousness. So again, that doesn't condone behavior, but you realize that's at your own level of consciousness that you are behaving in that manner. So I don't have to lower myself to it where I'm in this low vibration of hating. I can forgive myself for judging. I can forgive the other person, even if their behaviors are something I totally disagree with. Because when you don't forgive, you're taking that poison. It's that quote, taking poison and hoping the other person will die, or something like that, is what non-forgiveness is. And it's true. I think then when you have non-forgiveness, you can dedicate a whole channel to hating a type of person. Now, it's one thing to do, of course I'm going to defend myself a little bit here, and other people who do educational videos about, say, personality traits including narcissism. That's not just hating a group. Have you ever felt like you just woke up to something that you were really naive to, and it's almost embarrassing? Like, almost like if you were a little kid and the first time you were allowed to stay up late or something and you witnessed something and it changed your perspective on the world forever. I feel like I'm going through that right now. I was looking up some things to research about a video I was going to make. And so I'm like innocently on YouTube, like la la la. And suddenly I stumbled upon the dark layer of humanity where people are just mean. Why are people so mean? Are you that mean? Is it you out there? Because I was witnessing some people that were just, oh my gosh, like entire channels dedicated to just bashing people. And I felt like a 5-year-old Suddenly opening my eyes to the world. So naive. Like, duh, of course. Of course, there are people like this, but like, for some reason, I've been living in my world of inherent good. Like, I really do believe in my innocent land over here that people are inherently good. La la la. Stumbled upon all these websites about people who like hate single moms and stuff, and I'm like, oh my god, they're gonna come after me. They're coming after me next because I've been open about it. They're coming for me. I didn't realize how many people have such a disdain, hatred, like whole entire channels dedicated to like, don't date a single mom, and like, it's horrible, or like it's a death sentence, or attacking, and then, oh my, I'm at a loss for words, you guys. I didn't know how mean people are out there. And like, she's a whore and slut and deserves a life of hell because she was promiscuous when she was younger, and if somebody hasn't matched up with somebody by the time they're 35, then they deserve the hell and misery. And I was like, oh my god, people, it was crazy, it was scary out there. Like, I seriously felt so naive. I'm like, oh, let me just do my meditation, la la la, I'm sad about the situation. I was like, oh dear god, they're coming for me. But then I came back to center. I was like, Leah, reel it in, hang on. I've been inside of a black box theater, quite literally, teaching, acting, for the last 9 years, loving it, working with so many amazing people. And hi, students, anybody who's been with me, I'm just waking up to the world. I didn't really know. I knew, but I didn't really know how bad it was, how bad it's gotten. Not just hatred towards single moms, hatred towards people. Hatred towards people. And we know a lot of these different hatreds, right? Like, if you've ever experienced racism or something, of course it's hatred. And now there's all these new birthed hatreds for the new times. And at first I was mortified and embarrassed, and I got scared, and I was like, oh my god, here I am, like, la la, let me just jump on YouTube as, you know, this naive little doe out in the woods. I just jumped in the Shark Tank or something. I had no idea how now I understand more of why people are talking about that this is a matrix, and we're going into different paradigm shifts for the people that are like, that is not the paradigm I want to play in. But that is definitely a reality going on. There are people who are using all of their creativity energy to just put somebody down. It's like a big high school play of people just like bashing other people. Not everybody's doing that, of course. And I haven't watched the news. I turned off the news, well, a long time ago, and then I watched it here and there during the pandemic, and then I had to shut it back off. So like, I totally don't watch the news for the last 2 years. And I really am just, since my daughter was born, she's 5, since she, you know, I spend time with my daughter, I spend time with family, I spend time with friends, and I teach, and I live my life. So I'm not consumed in this hatred. So I knew it existed. And in my acting classes, of course, we deal with some pretty nitty-gritty scripts. And so I'm in the world. I'm not like, you know, completely shut off from the world. But I guess I didn't realize how bad it had really gotten because I've chosen to not play in that paradigm. I've made choices to not watch the news and take in that kind of gossip. I've shifted a lot of relationships that I've had with people who want to be in that paradigm. And So in a way, I've been in this like ignorance is bliss kind of a place. And this came back to this rude awakening. But then I thought, wait, everything's a reflection of everything, right? And that's me too. That's me too when I'm playing in the like narcissist or this and that. And there's something about learning about people and character traits, and I'm not going to stop doing that. I'm not going to stop ever talking about narcissism because it has held people back and it has held me back, and there are character traits that are more and more common that harm people, so I'm going to talk about it. But at the same time, we really are being called right now, and I think if you're watching this, because I believe in a magical, abundant, good universe, not a scary out to get you one, that this was divine right timing why you're here. And I think we're being called to come more into the light more now than ever, because there is so much hatred out there, but really what it is hatred for ourselves. Because when I see somebody going, you should never date a single mom because and they have this laundry list of things, or they've gone to great lengths of research as to why, all I can think is that's personal. There's a personal charge there somehow. The same way why I talk about narcissism, there is a personal charge there. And the other half of it is that gross word, which is codependency. Blah, blah. Because, for a lot of people who've been codependent, you're like, what? I'm really independent. And then that was the other thing about this bashing single moms thing. It was like, they're so independent and they're selfish because they put their kids first and they don't put the man first, so you should never date them. And I was like, oh my God. Oh, it was terrifying. But the point of all of this is, it's brought me back to the conclusion of forgiveness. I think we're really being called to forgive ourselves right now and to forgive other people. Even people that you think don't deserve happiness for whatever reason. To forgive ourselves for being human. Like suddenly I felt so, I was like, oh my gosh, I felt so scared even for my daughter, because there were like, I was gonna link the pages and stuff, and then I thought, no, I don't even want to spend time in here. You guys can find them, I'm sure. I mean, they were like scary, almost demonic in my opinion, and that is my judgment. But the way that they were using all of their energy just to fully bash. And then the comments of like, I feel sorry for those kids. It's like, wow, no wonder why. No wonder why people are so depressed. No wonder. And then you add a pandemic, and then you add all this shame, and then you add all this venom and hatred and this popularity of canceling each other if we disagree. So after I had my little panic attack of like, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed again, because I'm like, here I am doing my meditation, here I am talking about this. It's like, what am I doing jumping in the Shark Tank, Leah? But then when I got back to center, and why I wanted to make this video right now for you, Spirit called me to, whatever you want to call it, that inner guidance, that internal knowing, something bigger than your egoic, like, freak out mind, told me it's about forgiveness. So after I was really embarrassed and felt really open to like how naive I was like, oh my gosh, my growth is stunted. No wonder. And I'm so embarrassed. I've been all proud about sharing about my age, and then it's like whole groups of people that are like, anybody after 30 should be like basically like burned at the stake because they were a slut whore. and they don't deserve happiness. And they made their bed, and now I feel sorry for their children. I was like, wow, these are like major blanket statements, and they're so filled with animosity. And then I started getting a charge, but then that energy feeds into one another. I was like, oh, I'm going to do a rebuttal on why single moms are amazing, and I'm going to defend it, and then we're going to have a march. But then I thought, what? No. First of all, I don't want to do that. But then that internal guidance came to me. I was like, Leah, it's all good. You're good. Everything's okay. The message is about forgiveness. Forgive yourself for judging yourself, for thinking like you're whatever they're saying, that you deserve to be up at the stake or something, because, oh my God, because you've been learning on your human journey. I mean, that is nuts. Like they were saying somebody who's been married and cheated on their spouse and lied is like more noble than somebody that's never been married. It's just these judgments. Who are we judging? Who is judging? So yes, when I talk about narcissism and different things, I also reflect on myself, of course. The problem is, if you've ever been a victim of narcissistic abuse, you take it all on. So that's the flip side of it. And a narcissist will go, oh, you're not taking enough, and so that's the problem with that, is because anybody who's been through that, if you've been through that, you're always taking responsibility. So it's not about not looking at yourself. But I look at myself all the time, like I'm like in if anything, that's why I'm single, is because I'm always doing the self-discovery. And that was the other thing. It was like something about like you want to be taken care of. I mean, there were just so many, I can't even, my brain was like exploding with the amounts of judgment. But we all have that about something. My problem is I'm always forgiving a narcissist, because I'm like, I understand. I know where you're coming from. I get it. Because we do have that empathy and look to the other side. So that's why I'm trying to get to that other part, the opposite of that. That's like, is a little maybe venomous at times, where you're like, no, that's not cool. But really, we need to have a little check-in here. This is a matrix. What is going on out there? Let's return to forgiving and being kind. I really do believe people are good-natured at our core. And that's where I felt so naive, because I was like, no wonder why people are like making fun of me, like, okay, Holly Happy, what are you doing? No, as long as I judge myself, I'm going to be drawing in people who do that. The flip side of it is I've never felt so much peace about being single, because I was like, oh my gosh, if people are like that hateful. But then I got into the fear. I was like, oh my God, no wonder why there's so much judgment and prejudice about it. I didn't even know that there are whole groups of people dedicated to just hating people like me. I guess I knew it on some level, but I had never really gone into the rabbit hole of it. We gotta look at ourselves and be like, what am I hating about myself? What am I hating about somebody else? Again, you can disagree with somebody, but to dedicate all your time and energy to hate is such a waste of time. I tell people in my classes all the time, I don't tolerate gossip in my acting classes, because I just don't think it's creative. And this is on a more massive scale, and I know I'm not completely shut off from the world. I know in politics and all sorts of things on the world stage, you see this hatred. But I guess I just didn't realize how much of it was for single moms. No, I didn't know how much I was included in the hatred. There are some people, but we all are in that. So I know for people who have experienced racism, you've experienced that your whole life, and maybe I'm just waking up to that. I felt that way a lot when I was first having my daughter. I was like, wow, I actually, as close as I can, feel what that kind of prejudice or hatred feels like, or for a gay person or somebody, because sometimes I feel scared to tell people. And now that I know that there are actual specific groups out there dedicated to hating and spreading information and videos about how you should hate people like me, it was scary. But that also connected me back into humanity and how people who have been a victim of hatred like that have felt. Different levels, I understand. I'm not here to argue like who has it worse or anything like that. I'm just saying I felt that thing that runs through humanity, that disease, and that disease is infected people at different levels. So the healing comes from forgiving yourself and others. It will change your entire life. Because the peace that I'm beginning to feel more and more is like, it's okay. I can make mistakes. I can get on here and talk about one thing one day and something else the next day, and evolve and learn and grow and have people hate me and still be okay and bounce back and feel a part in me that wants to hate but returning to love. So that was the message I got today, which is forgiveness. Forgive yourself for wherever you are. Forgive yourself for wherever somebody else is. That's from their own experience. Forgive me for making mistakes. And I forgive you. We can forgive each other for being human. Because as long as we're human and evolving, we're going to have this stuff at different levels within each of us. But if we have an awareness of it, we don't have to live in that disdain and hate and agony and embarrassment, and instead just go, okay, I forgive myself. I forgive others. And just come back to now. I think that's what we're really being called to do. That was a doozy though. But I want to do this because that is also sad. It makes me sad for my daughter that some people would look at her that way, and she's already had that in some places we've already experienced that kind of prejudice where it's like, well, go tell your dad, and then I don't have a dad, and that judgment immediately. It's nobody's business. You don't know somebody's situation, and we can't make blanket statements on everybody. That's not our job. Our job is to look at ourselves. Are you living the highest and best that you can live? Are you forgiving yourself for everything so that you can forgive other people? Because we can live in a really hateful world, or we can live in a really peaceful, wonderful world. And a part of me loves being ignorant to some stuff, because ignorance can be bliss, but awareness can be transformation. So now, through awareness, we can come back. So ask yourself where you're hating on yourself, or where you're making it okay to make somebody else wrong. And just have forgiveness for yourself and others. That's how we create peace on the planet. That's how we change our life for the better. That's what I'm into. I'm not into squashing people down, including myself. I want to lift myself up and lift each other up, because I do believe even as ignorant as it might be, that we all have a good-natured spirit inside of us, but we have a choice. And we have to retrain ourselves to keep returning to that, because the popular thing in some ways has become to bash each other. But we don't need to. We don't have to be so mean. Okay?